Good morning. This is Jeremy with Next Level Arborist. I decided to do a short video on how to plant a tree. We're going to do this 15-gallon catalpa tree. I'm here in Santa Margarita, California. We have very nutrient deficient soils, and as you can see, a lot of star thistle. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge. It's supposed to be hot today, so we're going to get to it, and we're going to do a step-by-step video that can be applied to educators or landscapers or arborists or homeowners, anybody who's planting trees. So first we got to have the right tools. We got a digging bar here in case it gets hard. We've got a hard rake to dig away the weeds and any of the loose top material. I've got a Pulaski here, a little cheapo pickaxe, digging shovel, spade, and we're ready to go. So I'm gonna locate this tree right in front of this big power pole behind it to kind of screen the power pole. So placement's important. Also the orientation of the tree is important. You can see the tree has a lean to it there in the pot, so we're going to straighten that out. We're going to dig a hole now 2 times the width of our pot and 1.5 times the depth. Got that? All right, let's do this. Okay, so I dug for about 2 minutes and now I'm down about halfway. My hole's easily twice as wide as the pot. We're gonna build a berm eventually, so I'll show you that later. All right, so I'm past the easy part. I'm through the topsoil and now I'm getting down to a little bit harder stuff, and I'm gonna have to switch to a digging bar. So far I'm about yay deep. And if I compare that to my pot, I am a little bit above the soil level inside my pot. So right now, if I were to stick this tree in the hole, I would be right at soil level. So we want to go 1.5 times deeper. So it's time to get out the digging bar. Ooh, look at that. I hit a big gopher hole. Or a ground squirrel hole. That's probably a ground squirrel hole. So it just got easier to dig right there. Yeah, baby. Everybody loves a digging bar. All right, we're digging out the last bits here. This hole. Okay, so we've got this hole just about where we need it. It's pretty deep now, and I gotta go a little bit deeper, but what I'm doing now is starting to score the edges of the hole, because we don't want a tapered hole in a V shape. We want it to have straight sides. Okay, the sides need to be straight down, or even a little bit convex, I guess would be the name of it, because you don't want roots to come back up the edge of your planting hole. So what we do, we have a nice flat side to our hole, and then we score it a little bit. You see that? We want the roots to grow outward and penetrate those spots. So, and then we're gonna build a little mound in the bottom of the hole for the plant to sit on. But before we go too far with that, we gotta build our gopher basket. We're right at about 1.5 times the depth of our pot. So, yeah. The depth of the hole is about, the depth of the hole is about right here, and you can see that's about 1.5 times the depth of our pot. Looking good. All right, what do you need to build a gopher basket? Gopher / squirrel basket in this case. Okay, we've got galvanized chicken wire with like 1/2 to 3/4 inch holes, so that's tight enough that gophers are not going to squeeze through there unless they're a baby gopher. Anyway, this needs to be tight, and it's got to surround the outside perimeter of this hole. So we're going to make a pretty generous sized gopher basket. Okay, we got our gopher wire cut to length, so it's plenty long enough. You need some overlap. And now we're gonna climb in here and stomp this guy in the hole. Make sure that the bottom is folded over so the bottom's sealed up nice and tight. Don't get your eye poked out with the wire. You want to make sure you have plenty of wire so you don't have openings or gaps in your wire. Okay, so we're looking good in here. Now time to cut off the excess. When you cut off the excess, make sure it's 3 to 4 inches above your planting hole and above your berm, because gophers move at nighttime. They will come out of the ground, run across the top of the ground, climb over your gopher basket and down into your tree. So that's super common. So we keep the wire nice and high. I know many of you are looking at this saying, this is way too labor intensive. I'm never gonna plant a tree like that. But once you get used to it, it's not so bad. And also they do make pre-made gopher baskets. So you can buy them. I'm gonna add a piece just in the bottom there since I have some scraps. So you can take a look here. We've got a nice wire basket around the entire circumference of the hole. And we got it double layered in the bottom and folded over, so it's like triple, quadruple thick down there. And when we fill this, we're going to backfill with a 50-50 mix of soil amendment and native soil. Sun's coming up, starting to break a sweat. And this was tree number 2. We got our hole dug, we got our basket in, and that guy's ready to go in the ground. We'll install the irrigation this afternoon when we get back from another little job. All right. Well, you're gonna see some time lapse because in my third hole here to plant the third tree, this sucker was hard as rock. So I dug down about 4 inches with a digging bar and filled this hole with water. We're gonna let that sit, soften up before we plant this little beauty. Okay, we are back to work. We got 2 10-foot tree stakes here, which is overkill. We could have used 8-footers, but that's all they had. And we got our post pounder and some grow mulch. This is just kind of generic stuff. It doesn't matter too much what you mix with the soil as long as it's way better than the crappy decomposed granite that we have here. So we're going to do a 50-50 mix, and hopefully this will turn out good and give it some water. So we're on to step number 2 here. Okay, we top dressed it with the remainder of our planting mix, and you can see where that root flare is. You can see the beginnings of these roots right here. And we want to fill up the soil to that level, which is just about perfectly in line with the height of our planting hole. So it's not too deep, it's not too high. So we're going to plant it so the root flare is right at the soil level and also right at the original grade level. So you see we have a berm. It goes down a little bit. We're going to fill this a little more, and we should end up with a really perfect soil level. And then we got to water it quick. All right, we're going to pick up where we left off. So this morning we dug the hole, we planted the tree, we got this guy in the ground, and then it got to be super hot. So I took off and took care of some little fertilizing jobs down the hill where it was much cooler. So we're back this afternoon to get this guy wrapped up. So we got the tree straightened up, we got the soil backfilled. You can see again this root flare is right at the ground level, and we have it lined up just about the same, a little bit lower maybe than the natural grade. And we've got the wire nice and high so we don't have gophers crawling over doing their ninja stuff in the middle of the night. Now it's time to stake it. So The way to stake a tree properly is to position your stakes perpendicular to prevailing winds. So if I have prevailing winds coming from this direction, which I do, they're coming over the hill from the ocean over there and coming through this valley, and the wind is blowing right against the tree in this direction towards the camera. So I'm going to place my stakes in the opposite direction, perpendicular to the wind, so that when the wind blows the tree, it's not going to be banging against my tree stakes, or at least not as much. Okay, so that's how we're going to protect the tree. So here we go. We're going to stake this guy properly. Since these stakes are way too long, I'm going to cut them shorter first. So I'm going to put in my stakes just outside the root ball. So we don't want to damage that root ball much at all. And we got to tie this guy up. So I'm just inside my gopher basket, but I'm outside of the root ball. And I'm going to drive this down through the gopher basket into the soil below it. Opposite side. Looking good. Okay, now we're going to tie these guys up. Okay, so you can see how I've crossed it over here. I've got it fairly tight, so this is flexible, so this can move a little bit, but we want the connection where I pulled it through and then doubled it back and stuck it back in through that loop there. Now I'm pulling that connected piece out here to the outer edge of my stake, and I'm going to put a screw in it. So don't use nails, because when you start banging on this with a hammer, then your stake's going to get really loose. So it's better to use screws. There we go. I got it. This one is just barely long enough. That's actually a little bit tight, so I'm going to stretch these guys out a little bit, because you want this tree to actually move. It's good for this tree to blow a little bit in the wind, and then the root system will compensate for that wind. Now, the more I look at this tree, it's got such a heavy base and such a short canopy on it that I don't think it needs 2 sets of ties. So normally I would put another set of ties higher up on the trunk, but because we have a split trunk here and it's pulling apart, I don't want to put more pressure pulling these 2 stems apart. So we're just going to leave it like that, and this tree is plenty stable. It can handle heavy wind and blow around a little bit, and that'll be fine. So that's it for the planting, the staking, and now we're just going to mulch it to give it a little boost. We could fertilize it too, put a little Super Thrive on there maybe, and then we have to irrigate it. We've got some beautiful partially decomposed oak mulch here. We're going to put around this guy. This will just be amazing for keeping the soil temperature good, reduce the moisture evaporation, and even create some new soil around the base of this guy. Maybe recreate an organic layer over time. We'll throw some inside here. Cover up that bare soil, 3 or 4 inches thick. I'm gonna go get another load. Okay, we got another load of mulch. All right, and we have a perfectly planted tree, a future block of that telephone pole behind it, and this guy is going to bring some beautiful green life to this property. Thanks for watching. I hope you appreciate this video. Please subscribe and pass it on to friends if they want to learn how to plant a tree properly. Thank you very much.